Hello, how's it going? Today we're going to be doing an AEW Revolution 2024 predictions video. Boom, bam, bam. Fireworks, sparks, exciting. I'm going to be talking for probably half an hour, and that's about it. Alright, let's have some fun. Before we get to any of the matches, though, if there are any new matches added or any new developments, I have a blue sky now instead of a Twitter, because Twitter sucks, and I guess I'll at myself or reply to the post with the link to this video. So if you want to see what those predictions are going to be regarding whatever ends up happening or when the 0 hour matches are announced, because I usually like to give predictions on those, but I don't even know what they are. Otherwise, I have a list of all the matches for this Sunday, and let's start predicting. Seemingly the first match of the night is going to be FTR, Dax Harwood and Cass Wheeler versus the Blackpool Combat Club. I almost said Bullet Club. Blackpool Combat Club. Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli. No Danielson because he's later. But just a simple tag match that seems to be like this really odd feud that's brewed between them over the past couple weeks on Dynamite. Mostly on Dynamite, a little bit on Collision. Very weird match. I mean, I think it'll be good regardless, but I also kind of feel like this isn't really the best use of both teams. I think this is kind of just them being thrown together in a weird way that I don't really love. I think it's a good opener match. I definitely think if you're going to have an opener match, guys like Moxley and Claudio, and especially FTR, are going to do something to get everyone hyped up for the night. I just worry, much like all of their other matches, it's going to end up taking a long time. And while it'll be great, it'll be two sets of teams that are going to put on a good match because they can put on a good match. I also feel like I don't have as much investment in this as some of the other matches in the night. This is a huge pay-per-view. This is maybe the biggest pay-per-view main event that AEW will ever have. I know that's kind of crazy to say, but considering what the main event is, I think this match is kind of inconsequential in a way that is unfortunate. Not because I think it's necessarily bad in the shadow of Sting's retirement match. I think more so because it doesn't have a lot of stakes behind it other than a very basic feud between these two in that they don't like each other, which, I mean, I guess it kind of feels both like FTR have kind of been scrambling for a new feud since the House of Black stuff with Daniel Garcia, which was great, and they had that great cage match. But it kind of feels like that was like a really big moment, something that maybe could have been safe for a pay-per-view, but gladly it wasn't, because I think that would have just stretched it out for longer. And this kind of feels more like a way to use FTR in a tag match, but they can't be going for the tag titles because they're not up on the line for them. And AEW has kind of been slacking for a while with their tag division as to build it up in any way to have an actual meaningful feud against other tag teams. I know some of it has been because of injury. We only recently got Dante Martin back a couple months ago, and only a month, maybe a month and a couple weeks, did we finally get Mark Quinn back, so Private Party is back, but it feels like the tag division has been slacking, and thus this match exists. The same actually goes on the opposite side too for Bullet Club, I keep saying it, sorry, Blackpool Combat Club, where they also feel like a unit of people that are constantly shifting between singles matches, tag matches, trios matches, and whatever in between, where while they are good individually on their own, as a tag team, they're very weird. They go out there and they put on great matches, but it often feels more just about the blood and the brutality and less so about advancing towards a title, which, you need a couple of those sometimes, but I don't know that Mox and Claudio doing this really feels like it makes a lot of sense directed specifically at FTR, because it just feels like it's been really quick. As for who I think will win, I'm willing to bet FTR because they've been losing pretty often, either because they've just straight out lost matches, either singles, trios, or tag, or they have been beaten down by the BCC afterwards. It feels like it's kind of a redemptive thing for them. As for where this goes afterwards, I'm not even sure. Hopefully the tag belts somehow end up back in circulation with other tag teams, and hopefully we can build the tag team division, but then that leads into another problem later tonight, which is unfortunate, but yeah. Prediction, FTR, I guess. To be honest, it could go either way. You could flip a coin. Will it be a fun and entertaining match? Yes. Will it be one that I think advances a story that I really care about? Sorta, kinda. Next up in the listing of matches is the All-Star Scramble, which was originally the, was it Meat Madness or whatever it was called? What a terrible idea. I get what Tony Khan was trying to go for, but it just, I think that was doomed to fail, especially because you were relying on Miro, who is notoriously a flake. But regardless, now it is the All-Star Scramble, featuring just a random assortment of people with I don't know what stake or what prize is to be claimed at the end. It kind of feels like the whatever the Sonic the Hedgehog gold ring ladder match stuff is that we usually get a double or nothing casino match, whatever. It feels like a weird version of that, minus the fact that there's no real end goal to win for, so I don't know what this match is. We have Chris Jericho, Powerhouse Hobbs, Will Hobbs, Lance Archer, Wardlow, Hook, Brian Cage, almost said Christian Cage, and then 2 matches that are to be determined. Their last 2 participants. One match happening on Rampage between Magnus and Matt Sydal. I'm just going to go ahead and say it's probably Magnus because love Matt Sydal, but there's no way that dude's winning. And then a 3-way match between Brian Keith, Penta El Zero Miedo, and I can't remember who the third person is, but I'd be willing to bet it's probably Brian Keith, hopefully, Bounty Hunter. As for who's going to win this match, I really honestly don't know. This is maybe the weirdest match on the whole card to me, because it just, I don't know how it progresses Wardlow's story towards going after the AEW Championship, because I don't know if winning this match means you get a shot at the championship, because they haven't made any of the not the rules, but I guess the what the win is clearly. There's no stakes so far. I don't know if they're winning towards anything. Maybe it just progresses them further in the rankings, which would be fine, but again, they haven't really cleared that up, so very weird match in general. You've also got Chris Jericho being thrown in there last second because I'm pretty sure he felt like he needed to be on the pay-per-view, and Tony Khan is thinking, man, I'm paying this guy a lot of money to do these very weird, not good matches and feuds. I better throw him in somewhere. So they throw him in there, and yeah, I don't know why he's there. I know why Hobbs is there. It's to get Jericho angry and have them fight off against each other and make it seem like both of them are probably going to win, or rather one or the other is going to win, but then, oh, someone else wins. Lance Archer's in there. Love Lance Archer. So I guess I just love seeing him in a pay-per-view match. I think they were trying to do something cool with the Righteous and him that they then threw away because they made them lose, but either way, I'm happy to see Lance Archer in a pay-per-view match. That's great. Wardlow obviously is the remnant of the original version of this match, which again makes sense, but I also don't know if this feels like something that will progress him further along towards his goal of winning the championship from whoever it ends up being, whether it be Joe, Hangman, or Swerve. I think this just kind of feels like a distraction for him, really, when he could have been better off for it. Hook is in here. Again, another person who seemed to be going after the AEW Championship, which, you know, he lost against Joe, so maybe his goals have changed slightly, and maybe he just needs someone to feud with, so he's trying to find it here. Brian Cage, also another weird one, having lost the 6-man titles, doesn't feel like he's really been a part of the Mogul Embassy, or rather, along with Toa Leona and Bishop Khan recently. I feel like I haven't even seen them in a while. Then you've got Magnus, who, like I said, I'm assuming he's going to win because he's going to be the CMLL representative part of it thrown in there to help kind of just get more eyes on CMLL here in the US, again, as they've been doing for the past couple weeks with, Hechicero and recently Atlantis Jr. and whoever else. And then, like I said, the wild card could probably be wild card, as if this is the double or nothing match anyway, could probably end up being Brian Keith, which will be fun in there. I love seeing that dude wrestle all the time. He's just a fantastic wrestler and he's a fantastic character, so either way, he's on a pay-per-view. That's great. As for who I think wins it, probably Wardlow. I don't really know that any of these other people make sense to win it, because again, I don't know what the stakes are, and it feels like this match was made entirely to present Wardlow as a more hate-filled and angry person, so that's kind of what the point originally I think was supposed to be of the Meat Madness part of it, or at the very least to see a bunch of big dudes beat the crap out of each other, which while that's fun, I also don't really think that would have been as fun either, to progress anyone's storyline. So if I were to guess again, it's Wardlow, but this is such a weird match. Next up, a great match. Oh my God, this sounds like the best match ever. And the only thing bad about it is that I'll probably have to see or hear Don Callis, which I don't really care for right now in the present. I would have in the past, but not recently. Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita. I don't even really care about who's going to win what. I think this match will just be amazing. I think these are two really good people finally getting a chance to actually wrestle each other. Takeshita being put in a spotlight against someone who feels like a match Takeshita should have had already in the past, but now gladly he's finally getting. How that guy can win against Kenny Omega twice and then not get anything for the world title or even just against the higher prospects in AEW makes no sense, but finally now we have Will Ospreay here in AEW, and now Takeshita's finally getting his chance. Monkey Paw will probably curl, where I'm happy that this is happening out of the horrible stuff going between Jericho and Don Callis, either individually or against each other, but eventually we get good matches like this, and then somewhere down the line, something so unengaging will happen. But for now, let's focus on the fact that this is just going to be a good match. As for who I think will win, Will Ospreay. I think we haven't seen Kyle Fletcher for a while. He has the ROH TV Championship, which he does sometimes defend on Ring of Honor, but hasn't been recently. I haven't watched this week's Ring of Honor, actually, yesterday's. So maybe he showed up there for a second, but all I know for sure is that Will Ospreay doesn't seem to be as invested in being a part of Don Callis' family anymore, especially because they lost Sammy Guevara as a member or whatever, and oh god, I hate this stupid feud. Either way, this will be a fun match. Will Ospreay, I hope he wins it, because maybe it'll make Takeshita get angry at Don Callis and leave. Maybe we'll see Kyle Fletcher and some small section of United Empire will start up again here in AEW. I don't know, but I think also you going against Will Ospreay, which is a pretty good wrestler. And so, but hey, Takeshita is too. This will be a fun match regardless. Prediction, probably Will Ospreay. Next up, Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia for the TNT Championship, which I accidentally wrote down as the TBS Championship, which that's just funny. Anyway, Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia. This is a great one. This is another great little feud that's been going on that has been building. I think if you remove the recent Daniel Garcia promo, this could have used a little more time to develop between Daniel Garcia to Adam Copeland to the patriarchy. I was going to say just Christian Cage, but it's all of them, and then circling back all around to leading this. But either way, this match is great. That promo he had definitely sold me on him feeling like he is, a part of this story, a part of this feud going on. You had Christian Cage recently taking out Adam Copeland with the Concerto, so that's why he no longer has this match, and Daniel Garcia is facing him for it. As for whether I think he will win, no. I think Christian Cage is just pure evil in the greatest way. I think he has constantly found ways to worm himself into winning or keeping the TNT Championship, even when he's lost. Like last pay-per-view, he still won. But yeah, no, I think this will just be another really good match, though. That'll be for sure. But I actually have a different little thing to focus on here. While I definitely think this match will be good, and there's no denying that it'll be entertaining all the way throughout, with the various ways that either Nick Wayne or is it Shayna? I'm sorry, I forget her name, but the Mother Wayne, or Luchasaurus, because we call him Luchasaurus in this house, will interfere. I actually think something fun is going to happen near the end. Christian Cage will attempt to cheat, and in some way, because we haven't seen Adam Copeland in a while, he will show up, try to interfere in it, and then Luchasaurus will then again interfere with Adam Copeland. But hopefully now we will get the turn for Luchasaurus to now start feuding against Christian Cage for the TNT Championship. Ultimately, I do think Christian Cage will retain, and I think Daniel Garcia will be mad about it, but I think he'll gain a new ally. Him and Adam Copeland will gain a new ally in Luchasaurus, hopefully. Hopefully now. I feel like now is the appropriate time. He's been having to deal with being kill switched for so long, having the TNT title taken away from him. I think finally now is the time to turn Luchasaurus against Christian Cage and the Patriarchy. Either way, I think he'll retain, but I think it will lead into a new feud. Next up, for the Triple Crown Championship, or the modern day Triple Crown Championship, Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson. The man who doesn't respect him, and the man who doesn't care. what an awesome match this is going to be. What else can I say? These are two of the best doing it at their best right now in storylines that just feel natural for the both of them. They feel like they hate each other. They feel like they just want to rip each other's heads off, beat the life out of each other. I don't even really care who wins or loses. This will just be an amazing match. I think if Eddie Kingston loses, he goes down to a further depth than he's been to in the past, and will try everything and anything to get back at Danielson. I think if Danielson loses, he gains the respect that he has not had for Eddie Kingston finally, and sees him as the true champion that he is, and the person who's been willing to persevere through everything and survive through it all and make a name for himself. This match will just be so much fun, and that's really all there is to say about it. I think Kingston will retain, just because I think that will be far more of a wholesome feeling for the night, when there needs to be at least one wholesome moment between Eddie just keeping his championship against someone who he in the past has not had a lot of success with and only recently has had winning against, and getting that respect that he feels he deserves finally. Even though Eddie Kingston is constantly a person who is downtrodden and self-deprecating, he'll finally get the respect from the person he wants to get the respect from, and will hopefully feel like a better person. I think Eddie Kingston will retain. Either way, what an awesome match. Next up, the only women's match of the night. What? Toni Storm versus Deonna Purrazzo for the AEW Women's Championship. Boy, what a weird one. Not because I don't like it, but because I actually came to a revelation sometime yesterday after watching Dynamite, where I said to myself, this feud is missing something, and I don't know what. But I figured it out. Between the two, obviously, these two are best friends, and Toni Storm has gone off the deep end. I think the last time I did a predictions video, or maybe the second to last time, I think Jamie Hayter was still around. I said that I didn't really care for Toni Storm. I didn't really care for her character. I think she was a great wrestler. I didn't say she was bad. I still don't think that. But I felt like I was missing something with her the last time I talked about her. My God, this character has been such a turn for me. I love her. I love seeing her. She makes me laugh. She's just great in the ring, either doing her fun shtick of being absolutely unhinged or actually wrestling. I love this character, and I love everything she's doing recently. And I feel like bringing in Deonna Purrazzo and putting her in this spotlight and actually having an emotional connection between the two, besides it just being, new signee wants to face the best and wants to win the championship, there's actually stakes here. I love this so far, and I love everything that's been, progressing as time has gone on. The reveal of the ankle tattoo, to the new knife going through the ankle tattoo, and the utter disrespect on Deonna Purrazzo's face. All that stuff has been great, but I feel like it's missing one thing, and I think we all know what it is, and I should have realized sooner. It was very obvious. Mariah May needs more development here. She's had maybe like 3 or 4 matches in total since her debut, and all of them, while they are great matches, have never really progressed her story on the sideline with Toni Storm. I think, especially now, because it seems we're getting 2 very big stars very soon in Mercedes Moné and Kazuchika Okada, we're finally at a chance where the AEW Women's Championship, without people like Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker in the picture, has an actual roster of people that feel like big-time players going after that championship. And Mariah May should feel like one of those too. I mean, along with a lot of other people, you have Taya Valkyrie, who's been on the sidelines waiting for an opportunity and just never getting it, sadly. But now we have Mariah May, and it felt like we were trying to develop her story against Toni Storm eventually, where she was, obsessed and fanatic. Hopefully tonight, or rather not tonight, hopefully on Sunday at the pay-per-view, we finally see the progression of that storyline, because I feel like it has been severely lacking. It feels like something that should have been progressing naturally. These two, Toni Storm and Deonna Purrazzo, have a feud between each other that is very personal, and I think that they are both embroiled against each other in a way where they're not really looking at what's going on around them, and I think it's the perfect opportunity to allow Mariah May the opportunity to turn against Toni Storm and face for the AEW Women's Championship. So, as for what's going to happen for this match though, I think ultimately Toni Storm will retain. As much as I love the idea of Deonna Purrazzo winning the championship, because it would move it from Toni Storm. And, I think Toni Storm's character is strong enough that she doesn't need this belt. I do actually think that there's a far better turn for this with new prospects coming in, and with the hopeful return of people like Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker, and with the rise of people like Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa. I think that this is allowing the opportunity to have those matches that we wanted to see again come back. Like I said, hopefully this progresses Mariah May's storyline. Hopefully it allows her to actually have the chance to be seen as someone going for that championship and get matches towards progressing that goal. Hopefully after the pay-per-view and starting from it. But between these two, I think they're too focused on each other, and I think they're too focused on their personal history. And I think that's going to ultimately lead to Toni Storm taking advantage of Deonna Purrazzo because she is crazy in the head. And I think that will allow her to win. So, prediction, Toni Storm retains. Next up, a match that almost is a feud that has almost been going on for too long. Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong for the International Championship. Oh boy, where do we even start? Roderick Strong, obviously being a part of the Undisputed Kingdom, feels kind of odd that they're going for all the gold and yet they aren't progressing in any way towards any of that. And especially because I feel like this is a weird championship for Roderick Strong to go for. Granted, I like the story that's been going on between these two, especially with the lows that Roderick Strong and the Kingdom have been going in taking out people like Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero. All that stuff has been fun, but I also think that this has been going on just a smidge too long, where we see them constantly get near each other but never actually fight each other. Especially because they announced this match like a month ago, which feels like way too long of a setup. Maybe it was even longer. I feel like it was almost directly after the last pay-per-view, which is World's End, that suddenly it was like, well, now you and I are going to fight, but it'll be at Revolution. It's like, what, in March? As for who wins, I'm not sure. This is a very odd coin flip in that I could see Orange Cassidy retaining and trying to beat his original reign and hopefully going against other opponents. But I also feel like, as much as I like Orange Cassidy, that's a little tired for him and he needs to start doing something different. And I think he needs to get away from the international belt, because as much as fun as it has been in his reigns, I also feel like he hasn't really had the chance to do anything outside of this, especially regarding the Best Friends. Him winning doesn't really help him in the long run. It kind of feels like it's pigeonholing him again, waiting for the next person who's trying to take the belt from him. And then if Roderick Strong wins, which would be fine, it also feels weird and like they need to start progressing the stories of the other members of the Undisputed Kingdom going after the other gold. Just a weird match. If I had to say who I think would win, I'm going to go ahead and say Orange Cassidy? I'm going to go with Orange Cassidy. It's the one that at least feels the safest. If Roderick Strong wins, it kind of does not make a lot of sense, and I feel like will be a very weird storyline afterwards. But then again, I've been wrong in the past, so who knows. What I believe is the second to final match of the night, because we obviously know what that main event has to be, is for the AEW Championship, a triple threat match between Samoa Joe, Hangman Adam Page, and Swerve Strickland. And you know what? I'm not even going to talk about anything else. It's Swerve's time. He needs to win the belt. I've been, for a while, thinking about it. I love Samoa Joe, and I love him reigning with the belt. I think he's a fantastic champion, regardless. I think he maybe hasn't had as many matches as he originally set out to have at the start of this year, but I think it's time for Swerve to win the belt. I think Hangman is throwing himself so far in the deep end to try, almost desperately try to win this belt, that it's just gonna fail for him again. That ending of the match where they had a draw leading to this being a triple threat was so fantastic, but it also showed us exactly who these two that are going against Samoa Joe really are. After the draw, we obviously had Swerve ask for the 5 more minutes, and then Hangman laughed in his face, very sort of like in a snobby way, you know, he just was very like, haha, you didn't win, and throwing it in his face. And then after that, It was made into a triple threat, and we saw the natural reaction of the both of them. From Swerve's side, he was happy. He was finally happy to get his chance, his opportunity. And for Hangman, he hated it. He was angry beyond all doubt. And that's what we've been seeing, is Hangman going down a more hatred-filled route. And I think this is finally the last step to him falling so far into the abyss and just doing everything in his power to get back at Swerve. But I also think that is what's blinding him from winning this championship against Samoa Joe. Regardless, I love this match. I love the story that has been happening so far between them. The only wrinkle, I think, has been this weird little injury angle where, while I do like the outcome that happened this past Dynamite, where it was Hangman just lying and doing it to hurt Swerve again, I also think it was just kind of odd and random. And as for Samoa Joe, I think he is finally seeing the truth between these two that is going to lead to the inevitable demise of his championship reign, and I think that's just fantastic. I think that's just amazing. Man, I really hope Swerve wins on Sunday, because it would just be the cherry on top of this story for all kinds of reasons. For Hangman to progress as this horrible person further, and for Samoa Joe to become disillusioned and lose sight of what his original goals are, which he feels like he's been sitting on a throne and almost acting untouchable, but he's had these little instances where he sees that he's not untouchable, and now he's faced against the one person who could probably prove that not only are you not untouchable, you are defeatable, in Swerve Strickland. My prediction is Swerve, and even then it's less so a prediction and more a hope. Swerve deserves this belt so much, and I just really want to see it. And as for the final match of the night where everyone will have to get their box of tissues and realize it's time to say goodbye to Sting. Sting and Darby Allin versus Matthew and Nicholas Jackson for the Tag Team Championship in Sting's final match before officially retiring for good. Yeah, that's the largest weight that any pay-per-view could ever hold, ever, for any match whatsoever, in being the final match, the acknowledged final match of a legend as large as Sting, someone who's made a name for himself outside of the WWE system. It's a bittersweet moment. As for the match, oh boy, I gotta talk about the match, huh? Here, let's be honest. I actually really like what the Young Bucks are doing so far. Follow me along here, I promise I have a point. I love that these two have been committing themselves to heels in ways that feel petty and that feel sort of childish and immature, in the ways that they're trying to throw and hold power over essentially all of AEW, and using that power to basically shoehorn themselves in the way of Sting and Darby Allin from Sting in specific, but just in general, towards having him get his final send-off in a proper way. They have allowed themselves and positioned themselves in that way. I love all of this so far. I love that they're essentially doing what they've always done really well, which is playing against people's own hatred. That's kind of what the Young Bucks have always been doing, even as AEW started and before. They've always played on people hating them for specific reasons and amping it up to 11 in different ways to only really show you that the more you hate, the more you feed their power. And I think that these two versions of themselves, this weird EVP version, this very violent version of them, is showing the true colors and the true nature of that in its best way. Then they had to have Ric Flair involved again. A pay-per-view main event, a fantastic one. Maybe the greatest pay-per-view main event you could ever have in regards to someone like Sting. And you have to include Ric Flair again. Oh man, what happened? Why? It's the most predictable part of this. For weeks, I've been seeing all kinds of opinions. Sting and Darby will win. No, the Young Bucks will win. And usually, it's tied to whether or not you like Sting and Darby or the Young Bucks. But ironically, if you sat back like a lot of us did, like I did, and witnessed it, both of those people, the people that hate the Young Bucks and the people that like the Young Bucks were saying that both should win in different instances. If you hated the Young Bucks, you said, well, Sting and Darby will win because the Young Bucks are terrible and they're heel characters right now. And then you had the people who hated the Young Bucks and said the Young Bucks will win because they're trying to be the best in AEW and they're trying to just steal away this match from them. And then the opposite happened. The people who liked the Young Bucks said the Young Bucks will win because they'll move the tag team belts and try to help it move along the tag division. And then you had the people who liked the Young Bucks who said, no, Sting and Darby will win because the Young Bucks are doing the greatest thing that they can do and lose for Sting and Darby. And regardless, all of that turmoil, all of that discussion and debate, all of the people switching sides in between each other was so awesome to see because it was built entirely on just 4 people. And now involving Ric Flair makes no sense. It makes no sense. And I hate it, especially because he is the most predictable element if you're only looking at this as a storyline. Obviously, we don't want Ric Flair because Ric Flair sucks as a person and he's old. Even if he wasn't a horrible person, he is so old that he does not need to be in a ring doing anything. Even on Dynamite, he looked terrible trying to do, I don't even know what it was. I think it was a chop, but it kind of just looked like he was lightly brushing their chests. And the sell on the low blow looked terrible because he's old and he needs to not be doing this anymore. Oh, but also he's the most predictable element of this. He either will do nothing and will be a part of a match for no other reason than to be a part of this monstrous legacy that Sting will leave behind for all of pro wrestling and for the legendary handling of his last leg of his career in AEW. Everyone agrees that as far as anyone could ever have a better, last run, Sting has had the best last run that any wrestler has ever had. He's had a better version of his last run than he did in the WWE because he's felt like it's important every time. And every time they've used him, it's entirely because of his own inspirations and his own ideas that he wants to do. Adding Ric Flair into this only allows him to be a part of that legacy at the last moment when he does not deserve it and doesn't need to be a part of it. Rant over. Who will win the match? What if I told you it just doesn't matter who wins the match? Remember how I just said a moment ago that the constant switching of sides and picking sides between these 4 allowed for people to discuss themselves in circles as to whether they like this person and whether they like that person. All of that stuff was great, and I think the same thing will happen for whoever wins. If you have Sting and Darby win, that's fantastic. And I think that's probably the best outcome. You have the ability to let Sting go off riding into the sunset properly. Much like he probably deserves to, even with Ric Flair along, but whatever. But more importantly, you allow the tag belts to go vacant, to be relinquished and be vacant, and actually have other tag teams go for it. But on the other side, if you have the Young Bucks win, oh my god, you'll have so much hatred thrown at AEW from all of the non-AEW people, and I'm going to be honest, I don't see how they get out of that either. I think that looks bad. Even if they cheat to win, it doesn't make a better legacy for the Young Bucks. It makes it harder for them to overcome this one fault, which is making Sting lose on his retirement match. I think ultimately Sting and Darby will win. I think that's the one that makes the most sense. But I also think that regardless, you're going to hear from people saying that the opposite should have been done. And I think that's kind of the greatest thing about this match so far. Why I think it's probably one of the best, maybe the best, pay-per-view main event AEW will ever have. Either way, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I talked for a long time. I'm going to go edit this video now, and I hope you have fun watching AEW Revolution. If you want to leave your predictions below, go ahead. I want to hear them. If you think I said something dumb, yeah, probably. I mean, that's bound to happen. But let me know. I want to hear that. I want to know why I said something dumb. Or maybe you just disagree with something and you think the opposite is true. Or maybe you have something that I don't have. Some kind of insight that I'm not aware of. Either way, go ahead and put that down in the comments, let me know. That'll be fun. Like I said, I have a blue sky if there are any new matches that are announced or any new developments of any kind needing to be changed or whatever. If the 0 hour matches finally get announced, I'll go, I'll post it there and you can see where my predictions are there. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Remember, never forget, it's the thing I always say, it's the banner at the top. Enjoy yourself.